Welcome back to the Delaware Way. We continue our conversation with Wilmington Mayor Mike Purzycki. We had your police chief, as I told you, in a little while ago. The show's going to air after this one, but we had him in, and we talked about schools and safety in schools and how the safety in schools is related to safety in the community. And he talked about frustration with the fact that there are so many school districts and that it makes it difficult to get information and share information and fight crime because of that. And if it was his preference, he'd like to see one school district just from the safety standard. Would you agree with him?
In a perfect world, I would agree with him, yeah. It makes dealing with our problem kids much more difficult. It's hard to find them. It's hard to find the infrastructure in place to deal with them, because you don't know which school district you're dealing with. I think it's more troubling, frankly, that we have performance proficiencies in our schools that are so low in some of our elementary and middle schools, because that just gets to be a feeder. That gets to be a feeder for essentially criminal behavior. I mean, if you see kids who drop out, they're going to get in the system sooner or later.
Would one school district help that as well?
It would only help. It would only help to the extent that you wouldn't have to try to. It would be easier to find children. If you move one block, 5 blocks from 1 block to 5 blocks over, you may very well be in a different school district. So looking in Christina one day and having to go over to Red Clay the next day, it's easy for that kid to fall between the cracks and say that, well, he's not coming in here, but he didn't show up there yet either, so we don't know where he is. And I have to tell you, they don't have the resources to go out there and chase around looking for kids, especially when they just moved. And they moved to a rental where there's no permanent record, there's no stability in the homes.
I brought it up because I've heard the argument about one school district many times. I've never heard the argument that it causes crime. I haven't heard the argument that it's a safety problem.
I don't think it causes crime. It doesn't. By itself, in and of itself, if you had 5 splendid districts with everybody high performing, it wouldn't be a crime issue. But I just think that when you have a fragile population and young kids who are severely at risk, the last thing you need to do is put them in a place where they're not getting the supports they need simply because moving around just undermines our ability to find these kids.
And part of what we talked about in the first segment when it came to crime was neighborhood revitalization. Yeah. You recently went to West Center City, talked about revitalization there. I'm sure other neighborhoods are saying now, what about us? But you have to start one at a time.
They do.
So I guess you have to see if it's what you can do in one neighborhood and then start going to the next one.
Yeah, I think we have this all-in approach to improving West Center City right now, and that's license and inspections, and it's home, and it's pre-rental inspections, and it is police and parks, and then get health and social service involved. Try to reduce some of the intensity of social service providers all located in one part of town, so we can normalize living over there, and that's what we're trying to do, and it's a big job. You just have to drive through there and see the kind of blighted buildings that kids should not have to live around every day, and I think we want to do that. And we also want to rebuild some of the housing environments that kids live in, so people internalize a positive environment and not a negative, destructive environment, and that's what I think we're trying to do. It's not so subliminal. I think kids internalize these messages when they live around dysfunction.
Let's talk about some other revitalization and specifically renovation to Baynard Field. It hasn't been renovated since 1972. And there's been hope throughout the years. It always seems like it's going to happen and then it doesn't happen. You're talking about a private-public partnership. How close are we to that?
Well, where we are in the process is we've asked for letters of interest to determine whether there will be just one interested party or whether there'll be more. If there are more interested parties, then we'll ask for proposals. I mean, we'll put together a process that'll ask for specific proposals. If we only have one interested party, then we'll start negotiating with that party once again. And it's no secret, Slasianum had expressed an interest last time.
1 year into office, so you're at 5 months. 1 year into office, what would you see? What are you hoping is your success after 1 year?
After a year, I would hope to see demonstrable reductions in the incidences of crime. I would like to see again visible improvements in the appearance of West Center City in particular. I want to see a vastly improved downtown, both in the way it appears, in the way it functions. Functions meaning I want improved police protection down there. I want the Rodney Square to have a vision for being the aesthetic center of the city that it once was. You know, I think we can, I'm certain by the end of this year we're going to look back and be able to list a half dozen really sound accomplishments that'll make people confident in our ability to govern.
Thank you, sir. I
Sure.
appreciate you being in here. Mayor Mike Purzycki of Wilmington, we always appreciate that you are available to come in and talk. I think transparency is an important part of the office, and we appreciate you coming in. When we come back, baseball is back in Wilmington. We'll talk about what the Blue Rocks are up to when the Delaware Way continues.